What's up, y'all? I've had something that's bothered me since around when Charlie Kirk was shot, and even somewhat before that. You could see it forming if you were watching. But it's this idea that's blowing up all over TikTok and YouTube and X, that the guy who we voted for, Trump, somehow or another has changed sides, and now he's on Israel's side. He's on Netanyahu's side. He's on the side of the genocide. That he's Israel first and no longer America first. And so, of course, since this blew up with Charlie's death, people have dug into every corner of this story and tried to understand it. And the entire time as I've watched it, it's bothered me because since I voted for the man, I feel bad about what is it, buyer's remorse. I feel bad about whom I've elected because this isn't what I voted for. But during that same time, I was also studying financial things that had me wind up in another camp. And since they were geopolitical type people, I wound up stumbling across some people that had an entirely different view. And I would listen to what they said, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is not what I'm hearing on the other side." It was two totally different ball games. Not even in the same stadium. And so I just kept listening. And the things that they were saying, it couldn't be both. So watching Trump as he goes down this path of self-destruction and destroying the MAGA party and everybody's all the infighting that's going on, I'd like to believe there's hope. I'd like to believe that maybe I'm missing something. And these people that I began to listen to seem to have the other side of the story, which is what I want to share with you today. It's basically broken down into two parts. I've got the part at the beginning that kind of shows how we got here, and then the final part, which shows you the other side. And I do want to say that if you hang around all the way to the end, there is a theory that General Blaine Holt puts forward that I've never heard anywhere. And so I'm very hopeful that what he said is true, and maybe he's got some inside baseball that I don't. I also want to say, before getting too far into this today, I want to put a disclaimer that there's no way to know for sure if what I'm telling you in this video is true or not. The only way we'll ever know is after it's all played out. And then looking back, we see that they were right. I've seen stories recently that Israel is using Trump to usher in the building of the third temple, and that what's going on in Israel is actually what the Jewish world is. They want to rebuild the temple, and they have to have that property, and so the Dome on the Rock has to go, and that this is going to be, it's basically a religious war, and it's an end times event, that they're going to rebuild this third temple and they're going to usher in the end times. And they've basically got Trump to help them fast forward this event. It's not my view. I don't believe that we are in the end times, not those end times. Have totally different views on that. But either way, it really doesn't matter what I think. If that's the belief of those people and that's what they're attempting to accomplish, then it's just more pieces of the puzzle that you have to look at and go, hey, does this all fit together?
Take a look. So Charlie writes in this group chat, just lost another huge Jewish donor, $2 million a year because we won't cancel Tucker. I'm thinking of inviting Candace. Somebody writes, oh. Charlie writes, Jewish donors play into all of the stereotypes. I cannot and will not be bullied like this, leaving me no choice but to leave the pro-Israel cause.
He was in the way. He helped Trump get elected. Things that he said and things that Candace has said as she unraveled the story of Erica, and that she's not the person that she appears to be, and that her past doesn't line up with who she says she is. So anyhow, for us as Trump supporters, the problem has always been that the things that I see Trump doing and saying, they're pissing me off. I didn't want to be in a war with Iran. It's our children that will go over there and die, and none of us want that. It's not what we voted Trump in for. How about no fucking more wars in the Middle East? And that's what Trump promised us, and that's not what he's doing. I got a problem with that. And we found out a lot of people that we can't trust. With everything that's happened with Israel, with Tucker coming out and showing us clearly. When he did the interview with Ted Cruz, he took him to task.
Growing up in Sunday school, I was taught from the Bible, those who bless Israel will be blessed, and those who curse Israel will be cursed. And from my perspective, I want to be on the blessing side of things.
Of those who bless the government of Israel?
Those who bless Israel is what it says. It doesn't say the government of, it says the nation of Israel. So that's in the Bible. As a Christian, I believe that.
Where is that?
I can find it to you. I don't have the scripture off the tip of my... You pull out the phone and use the Google.
It's in Genesis. And I am allowed to weigh in on this. We are commanded as Christians to support the government of Israel?
We are commanded to support Israel.
How many people live in Iran, by the way?
I don't know the population.
At all?
No, I don't know the population.
You don't know the population of the country you seek to topple?
How many people live in Iran?
92 million.
Okay. Amani, and you said it was bad.
You don't believe they're trying to murder Trump?
Yes, I do.
Because you're not calling for military strikes against them in retaliation. And if you really believe that...
We are carrying out military strikes today.
You said Israel was.
Right, with our help. I said we. Israel is leading them, but we're supporting them.
Well, you're breaking news here, because the U.S. government last night denied, the National Security Council spokesman Alex Pfeiffer denied on behalf of Trump that we were acting on Israel's behalf in any offensive capacity.
No, we're not bombing them. Israel's bombing them.
You just said we were.
We are supporting Israel.
High stakes. You're a senator.
You'd look at something like that and go, yeah, but, he's just looking for clicks. He wants to get a got you moment with Ted Cruz. No. Tucker would rather be fishing. Tucker would rather be hunting quail with his dogs. Tucker would rather be with his family. Tucker's had to step up in the last few months, ever since he did the interview with Putin that everybody was hating on him so much for. Tucker's had to go out of his way. Look, I know if you're Tucker Carlson and you've got the money that he's apparently got, and you've done a pretty good bit of work in your life, it would really be nice just to enjoy those what's coming as those golden years, doing something you enjoy. But no, he's like the Incredibles. It's like, will the world just stay saved? I get it. Tucker would rather not have to fuck with this. It's a pain. Are you kidding me? But then as things progress, we found out from Charlie, from Ted Cruz, and from Mike Huckabee that Israel we are an occupied country with AIPAC money, these big super PACs that give money, and now AIPAC's bleeding off money into other organizations supposedly because they see what's coming.
Everybody but me has an AIPAC person.
What's that mean, an AIPAC person?
It's like your babysitter, your AIPAC babysitter, who is always talking to you for AIPAC. They're probably a constituent in your district, but they are firmly embedded in AIPAC. And
every member has something like that?
Ostensibly, it's a group of Americans who lobby on behalf of Israel. They're for anything Israel. And they're a very effective lobbying group.
Israel's controlling our government. Trump is powerless against him. We haven't had, I don't think we've been a sovereign nation since they shot JFK. But I do not support Israel. And I don't think that Jewish Americans should support Israel. And I hope that they're now having those conversations. I see many of them recognizing that they have been propagandized into believing they have to support this demonic state.
I'm just asking what AIPAC does. My understanding, having known a lot of people who work at AIPAC, is that it lobbies on behalf of the Israeli government.
Wrong.
Oh, okay. When was the last time AIPAC took a position that deviated from Prime Minister Netanyahu?
All the time.
Name one.
Let me go back and give a little history. If you want to do a deep dive on AIPAC,
I don't. I want to do a shallow dive that gets.
No, I'm not going to do a simple.
I want to get to the core question. AIPAC is lobbying for a foreign government, and I don't. It's not.
No.
It's lobbying for the United States.
It is lobbying for a strong U.S.-Israeli relationship.
So it's not has nothing to do with the foreign government.
It wants America and Israel to be closely allied.
Okay, but it's lobbying on behalf of the interests of another country.
So that's not true at all.
How much contact do you think AIPAC leaders have with the government of Israel?
No idea.
But they see what's coming down the line, and that's in 2026. There's going to be an election, and if you're not America one and only, and Israel last, if any, then you're going to have a hard time getting elected. We voted in the guy that was going to fix all this, and he's made a fucking mess. He's losing support. He's got like Alex Jones going to bat for him, hating on Candace. None of it makes sense. And so I'm scratching my head too, because I like shit that makes sense.
And Alex Jones, I brought this up on his show, my Kill Switch. Here's what he had to say.
Boy, does she lay the traps for him. She comes out and says, yeah, Charlie was calling me, wanting me out of his events again and all the rest of it. And he was also really concerned about the Israel lobby coming after him. And they said, you're a liar. Charlie doesn't like you. Charlie didn't like you. Charlie didn't call you. He didn't text you. And so she let him say that for a few weeks and then released it, the text. And then she said, yeah, he was really upset with the Israel lobby and said he was breaking with them entirely. He wouldn't be bullied by them. In the weeks before he was killed, they said, you're a liar. That's not true. So she released those 2 days ago. Now she says she has the proof, and it's text messages, that he feared for his life in the 2 days and the day before he was killed. And predictably, they're already saying it. She's a liar. And then she's going to release those. And she's also sent out the dead man switch. This is a real dead man switch. She has sent out it to the Tate brothers, Dave Smith, Max Blumenthal, Tucker Carlson, and others. Well, I'm trying to get her on for weeks. I'm a little bummed out she didn't send it to me. Because I'd like to stand with her, but we do stand with her. So,
and it's so funny because you see Alex trying to brag on her and get on her good side, and then when he realizes he's not able to, he goes nuclear on her.
Also, I don't want to be mean to Candace, but I've looked in her eyes. I've watched her carefully. You can see the look. I think she's gone into like a megalomania, and I think her husband. I said this months ago. He needs to intervene. I don't mean shut her down or stop her, but she needs to go to. And they go, oh, that's how the Soviet Union controls people. Is sending away to no. I'm saying I believe she's mentally ill, and she has this total scorn and just wants to destroy TPUSA. And you're right. TPUSA is one of the game changers that got Trump elected. 2.5 million young people just for the last election. It's expanded some now, but it's gotten really tainted by this. And she's in there attacking their donors. She wants the whole thing burned down. And it is malicious for maliciousness' sake. And she serialized all this made-up crap.
And you go, what the hell is going on here? What is going on in this world? You don't know who to trust. You know, the last person you think that would be supporting something that the government, the United States government is doing is Alex Jones. Are you kidding me? When is he ever? You know? So when I wind up in these debates amongst friends who were Trump supporters, I find myself in two camps. I absolutely hate some of the things I see Trump doing over here, supporting Israel, genocide, killing men, women, and children in Palestine. And yet, on the other side, I've got these financial guru guys and girls that are talking and whispering and yelling in my ear. And it's not that it's 5D chess. It's just a plan that I find nowhere on the news. Mainly it started with Tom Luongo, Gold Goats and Guns. And then Susan Cakenda came in the picture. Once you start listening into what they're saying, you see a completely different picture. You see Trump destroy. It's not in secret. It's really out in the open, but it's like nobody sees it or wants to talk about it, so nobody's aware of it. But what it is it's Trump breaking the British Empire that has ruled over us financially for hundreds and hundreds of years. He basically breaks it down into Trump having a war against the City of London, the Davos crowd, World Economic Forum, basically anybody in Europe that is going to stand with them, and Canada. And you get the idea. It's the elite ruling class of the world that's somewhat hidden, but has been the ones that been pulling the levers behind the scenes financially for years. One of the things that bothers me when I listen to Luongo, he's saying stuff that I like to hear because it makes me feel like, yeah, we're gonna take back our country, our economy, everything. We're gonna basically run the world again. Well, actually, he says that we're going to divide it into three regions, which will be China, Russia, and the United States. When I listen to him, I really feel good about the things he's saying. But then I've got this other side of Trump that does things that I do not agree with. You'll remember this is where Trump shot himself in the foot.
Yeah, sure. If
Hey,
I
Pam,
could,
could I just interrupt for
Sure.
1 second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable.
I can't imagine how much support he lost with those words alone. And to regain those people, I don't know. So since he is in office, I guess that's where I'm focused right now. Is there's nothing that we can do. We voted him in. He's there, and I believe that this other plan may be actually what's going on. As far as the bad shit that he's done, I guess it's going to let the chips fall where they may in the future of how that all culminates and is taken care of legally. But this other side is what I wanted to tell you about, because I've got guys like that come out during this war. Douglas McGregor is just absolutely throwing Trump under the bus. And this guy was in the first Trump administration. And he's not just, some stupid Joe out there. He was a colonel. When he says bad things about the war and that we're going to lose and Trump needs to just declare victory and walk away and he doesn't have enough of this and that makes me start going and trying to find out what's Douglas McGregor's connection to the World Economic Forum and Davos crowd and City of London. Well, guess what? Now he speaks against those, because you're like, well, if he's not on that side, what side is he on? I don't know, but I want to play you some clips of things that I've come across that somehow or another we need to reconcile and try to understand. And here's the kind of stuff that I find McGregor's saying that is not supportive of what Trump is trying to accomplish.
Trying to ship into Lebanon, where they're meeting again resistance despite enormous bombing. I just don't see the evidence for success. And moreover, now I'm hearing from people who are saying, oh, you don't understand, Doug. The Iranians are running out of ballistic missiles. They're running out of cruise missiles. Why? Why do you say that? Well, they haven't fired as many over the last 2 days as they did at the beginning. I said, well, obviously, they have to have targets. What have they got left to shoot at? They've already destroyed all of our bases. They've done enormous damage to the infrastructure, command and control, radars, Patriot batteries, THAAD batteries, you name it. Oh, no, you don't understand. They're running out. As soon as somebody tells me the enemy's running out and that's the reason, I tend to remember Ukraine. Oh, the Russians are running out of ammunition. They're running out of missiles. Oh, the Russians are losing. The Iranians are winning. I don't believe anything, frankly. I want to look at a different indicator.
But I see people like him that, I don't know if they're in the know, but they were in the know and they know what's going on better than we do. And they're going on these shows and they're doing everything they can in opposition to Trump. It's not like they're just giving facts. They're coming after Trump. And so immediately you got to go, why? Why is this guy doing this? I want to compare that to what this guy says, Brigadier General Blaine Holt. This guy is the guy that is on Tom Luongo's podcast that I'm fixing to play you part of.
But the folks that I find who are the most interesting are the ones who, in the lead up to this Iranian thing, are, well, Israel's dragging us to war, and the president is a shill of Israel, and he's going to go forward with this. And then it happens. Well, you can easily see that we're only doing this because President Trump's been blackmailed by Israel.
Okay, that's number one. You hear people, what we've talked about, whether it's Candace or Tucker or Megan or whoever it is, you hear, or Liberty Lockdown, Clint, you hear people feeling, expressing their feelings like that Trump is somehow blackmailed by Israel and the Epstein files. And because of that, he's allowed a genocidal maniac to commit this genocide in Israel. And now he's going to bat for him with a war in Iran that is more helpful to Israel than it is to the United States.
I want to remind everybody, and I try to remind everybody all the time, since 1979, the mullahs and the Ayatollah have had one mission, and that is to take out the great Satan and the little Satan. And you may not like Israeli politics, and I don't really care. People ask me all the time, well, are you with Israel or you're not with Israel? And it's like, okay, which one? Which one? The Knesset's a very confusing place. And Israel is a diaspora of many different voices and political views. And so just saying I'm a little irritated with Israeli politics does not an anti-Semite make.
And that's what you've heard Tucker and Megan and Candace on many of their podcasts is having to fight off the Ben Shapiros and the Mark Levins of the world who are attacking them and saying that they're anti-Semites because they're questioning the relationship between the United States and Israel. Charlie Kirk dealing with the very thing, being under attack, basically being an anti-Semite.
Today, I could read it on air. I was just reading before I got on. Charlie, what are you doing? Like, why are you? What am I doing? I'm sorry. Like, let's just take a step back here. Like, I'm an American citizen. Yes, I want Israel to win. Yes, I'm a Christian. But, like, some of the mess, and you've seen how I've been treated, Megan, by some, not all, by some.
No, it's very irritating.
It's
been so unfair. They were coming after you after Turning Point for, among other things, that you had Dave Smith there. Dave Smith is allowed to criticize Israel. You had both sides. The Israeli side was overrepresented.
Though. No, you're not allowed to. It's even worse than that. Again, I just want to repeat for the fifth time. I love Israel. I want Israel to win. But my moral character is now being put into question, Megan. Not my decisions. Not like, hey, are you doing this? Is it smart or is it dumb? But no, I am a bad person if I do this.
So you get Charlie and Megan under attack because they're not saying what the Zionists want to hear. They are anti-Semitic.
However, the idea that the president of the United States is beholden to a New Jersey sized country, no. And then you get to this other place of just complete cognitive dissonance that the Israeli-Iranian war is in and of itself a war unto itself, sitting in its own silo, not linked to anything else.
Listen to what he's saying. He's making the point that people look at this as just one one single war. Like it has no tentacles, no tendon, nothing that's connected to anything else. And that's not the case.
And what I would say is, as you well know, if you get all the puzzle pieces in the box, and let's pull them out, Venezuela, China, Russia, Ukraine, J6, Epstein, COVID, all of it, it all fits very nicely into the puzzle pieces because, and I wrote about this week at Newsmax, I call this World War Next, not World War III, not World War IV. Reasonable people argue about those numbers. World War Next is a fifth generation war, and it's been going on, just about for 1,500 years since the fall of Rome. And a lot of people are locking up on that. But the bad guys in their different various incarnations have gotten to the place where really we're still staring down the barrel of the remnants of the British Empire, aka the City of London.
Back to the original point that I was making. I mean, when if somebody's asking Trump, hey, how long are we going to be in this war with Iran, and we don't have enough of this and we don't have enough of that, they're missing the entire point that the war is actually a financial war that he's had. Yeah, we're having a war on the ground, maybe not with ground troops, but missile war. But they're missing the financial war, and that's what's left out of the media that nobody's talking about.
And I do think, and I am seeing, and I am encouraged that there are more and more people at least willing to take a step out and question, is what we see on the TV what's really happening? And I would say, that's your first step. If you're questioning what you're seeing on TV, there's hope. There's hope. But if you're not going to look at anything and you're just going to go, no, these are tinfoil hat wearing people, orange man bad, you're in a lot of trouble. You're going to be way behind.
Okay. So that's Blaine Holt, Douglas, McGregor.
Frankly, I want to look at a different indicator. And the indicator right now, it comes in the form of insurance premiums for shipping. They have risen by 640%. Just think about that. We don't have to shut down the Straits of Hormuz right now. In other words, it doesn't have to be blocked if you're an Iranian. All you have to do is make sure that the risk that insurers have to take is too high. And that's what's happened. We have 3,200 ships sitting to go in and out of the Straits of Hormuz. Now, if you're a Russian-flagged or Chinese-flagged tanker, you're allowed to leave. You're allowed to come in. But if you're anybody else, you're going to be stopped. And right now, nobody wants to insure the ships. So these effects are profound. Higher oil and refined product risk premium, higher freight and war risk insurance, tighter financial conditions. And if ships and premiums stay high, Iran is achieving a strategic effect without having to win tactically. So what do you need to keep this going? More drones? Sure, some more drones, occasional missiles. And who is going to invade you? Oh, I forgot, the Kurds, right? Only now we've discovered there is no Kurdish army preparing to invade. We're trying to stand one up, but the Kurds aren't that stupid.
Going into the war, everybody was hollering about the Strait of Hormuz and the damage it's going to cause to the price of oil. So let's look at how Brigadier General Blaine Holt sees this.
So what were they doing geopolitically? They thought, these maggots thought they were going to shut down the Straits of Hormuz because the Iranians have missiles. And it's like, okay, well, we've got a thing called the Abraham Lincoln, and it's just going to sink this Navy. Wait a minute. So what do? They blow up their own stupid tanker, their own one that's anchored and rusting away in the water. They blow that up, and Lloyds of London says, oh, this is terribly awful. We must stop all policies because the risk has gone off the Richter scale. It's terrible. We'll no more policies. And that de facto shuts down the Straits of Hormuz. And then City of London says, we have you in check, maybe checkmate. And then Trump says, no, we'll insure it. We'll take all that insurance. In fact, we need a way to pay for this war, so we'll just take those premiums. That's just fine, no problem. Everybody get back to shipping. And by the way, you'll get your own personal escort. It's called a U.S. destroyer. We feel good about them going through the Straits because we just sunk 13 ships, got a few more to go, but it looks pretty good. and you're fine. We'll take all those premiums. So
and any of
just kick the city of London right in the
totally different view on how the Strait of Hormuz is turning out. Here I've got Luongo's view on the same issue.
The European people, on the other hand, because of the remnants of the Eurodollar system and the remnants of City of London's ability to pull a VIG off of our guaranteeing global shipping. And give me 1 second to tie all these dots together, and you'll see what I'm getting at in a second here. Somebody said to me on Twitter the other day when I said, look, the U.S. Navy, since the end of World War II, has guaranteed global shipping. We have been the insurance policy.
And their mission statement.
And it's Lloyds of London and all of these other countries companies that have generated the profits off of it while having intelligence back ends inside our intelligence services and our DoD and everywhere else. That's why they don't do any risk assessment. They don't have to. There are no actuaries at Lloyds of London. They're all MI6 operatives. They just call across the Thames, right? So they've been pulling this money in for years and using that to destabilize us and everybody else. Yeah. And why don't we get the profit for this? And some guy came back to me and said, you did get the profit. It's called seniorage. I said, hold it. What's the definition of seniorage? I said, this is the dumbest tweet of the day. Yeah. This is the guy I know. I know him well. I'm like, dude, that's the dumbest tweet I've ever heard. And I've heard some dumb tweets recently. That's dumb because seniorage is what happens is the profit you get for printing the money, for making the money.
Right.
And we're printing the dollars. And then we're paying a coupon payment and an insurance premium on the money that we printed to the fuckers over in London who are running around blowing our shit up. How about it's the exact opposite of that?
Right.
You get the same theme from Luongo. He doesn't see this problem that, like the media, you watch CNN or Fox, and you're going to see stories about the price of oil going up because the Strait of Hormuz is shut down, and you just cannot. You're not going to be able to believe anything that you see on the regular news. And the big story today is that a 300-year British stranglehold on global trade. Just this morning, news broke that the U.S. Development Financial Corporation, backed by Secretary Scott Bessent and President Donald Trump, deployed $20 billion Maritime Reinsurance facility. And this isn't just a policy update. It's a financial weapon of mass destruction, and it's aimed directly at the Bank of England and Lloyds of London. By providing our own risk insurance and Navy escorts, we're not just protecting tankers, we're effectively stripping the Davos bunch of their power to veto world commerce. That's pretty impressive. Retired Colonel Douglas McGregor, I've listened to him speak many times on different podcasts. I don't want to judge him. I mean, he served our nation, and I'm sure he's a good man. And the thing that it's difficult for me to listen to him speak, because when he's speaking, it doesn't come from a place of it doesn't seem like he's even killed on this, because he's got a chip on his shoulder toward Trump. That's the way he comes off. And I'm not saying that's what it is, but that's what you watch his interview on Redacted, or you watch any of his former interviews. It's not fair and balanced. And I don't know. I don't understand, but I do want to let him, in his own words.
And over the next 2 weeks, I think they're going to get them ready and bring them over so they can replace the 2 carrier battle groups that are there now. So this is going to go on. And as you pointed out, everybody stopped talking about 48 hours. Remember, we go back to Witkoff, and he said, well, President Trump and I thought they were going to capitulate. I mean, after all, look at all the firepower we amassed. Persia has been with us for 2,700 years. I don't see any evidence that they're about to go away. I think they'll endure. I think ultimately, by enduring, they will win. The question is, what sobers us up? I think it's going to be economics.
That just for him saying, I think they will win. Chip on the shoulder. I mean, you go, well, he's just speaking in real terms, in reality. Well, maybe that's because he's not weighing it out fairly. One, that this war is not just being fought with missiles, that it's also a financial war that Trump had planned. And number two is maybe he's not on the inside. No.
Remember, Japan depends for 73% of its oil on the Persian Gulf. South Korea depends about 65% of its oil comes out of the Persian Gulf. China, 50%. But the Chinese have substantial strategic reserves, and they have a new pipeline into Siberia. So that no doubt helps a great deal. India's oil, 50% of it comes from the Persian Gulf. And right now, Indian industries, whether it's ceramics or automobile tires or any number of things, anything that contains petroleum, all of your fertilizers contain elements from petroleum. Those businesses are being destroyed in India. And people are beginning to say, no, wait a minute. Did President Trump ever consult with any of the nations with which we are aligned or nations that are ultimately friendly to us before he decided to do this?
Let me see what else he says.
The answer is no. Did anybody really present him with a systematic analysis of how likely it was that we would be successful striking Iran from the air, or was that simply waved aside based on anecdotal evidence provided by the Israelis that said, oh, this will be over in 2 days or 3 days or 4 days? We don't know the whole story. I mean, the truth will come out. Eventually, we'll find it out. But I think most of our assumptions were false. They were evidence-free, as so much analysis in Washington is. So I think we're in for the long haul. And hopefully we don't have any ships that are damaged or sunk. Hopefully we don't have a carrier that's struck by one of these ballistic missiles. That would be disastrous. Because right now, all the bases are basically gone in most of the region. They're not usable anymore.
Hold that thought. There's no way for him to know that unless he's got inside scoop somehow. Here's basic overview. Using satellite imagery, they confirmed the destruction of a THAAD radar system in Jordan. Some communication hubs in Bahrain were destroyed, and there was some cratering to the runways and the airfields in the UAE and Kuwait. That's was satellite imagery. And then what the Trump administration puts out, or the Pentagon, and then you get things like what the colonel here is saying. You don't know who to believe. The satellite imagery seems pretty trustworthy. If what he says is true, if that came from a real source, somebody on the inside, which very well probably could have because of his connections in the military, then that would mean that we should pay close attention about a lot of the other things that he's saying. If he actually has some old confidants in the military that are feeding him intel, then when he goes on to a show like Redacted, if he's not supposed to be getting ahead of the administration and the Pentagon and the War Department, he has to play dumb. He would have to come on to a show like that, and even though he knows the facts, he would have to state everything as if it was assumptions. I'll run you through this last clip from Blaine.
12 years
deals with the cartels.
Disrupted their bullshit, and now they're pissed because what did he do? He took a war to the cartels, the vascular system, to all of their illicit activities, including trafficking, money laundering, the third and fourth opium wars, and on and on and on. And he's still on the cartels. Hell, the news cycle didn't even have enough room in the newspaper to print that we also went after Ecuador, Colombia, and Bolivia last week. Nobody knows. And
right.
so,
I missed that. You know what I mean? No, I'm glad you brought it
up. So you're saying Turkey goes next, and they're in the batting order. I would say the Cubans are looking really good.
The Cubans. Well, I think we've already had that what do you call laid out for us, right? That Marco Rubio and the State Department and the Trump administration already basically said, look, Cuba's going to fall without a shot, and we're going to become like part of the United States in the next 60 days.
So these guys, Tom and Blaine, are talking about Ecuador, Colombia, Bolivia, Cuba, Turkey, Alberta at some point, Greenland. I've even heard Australia mentioned, but it's all part of Trump's plan. The drug money has to be cut off, and all the other money for the trafficking children, and it just goes on and on. But and it sounds like conspiracy theory shit. But I want the bow that I want to put on it. I'm going to let Blaine Holt do it because he says it pretty well.
It's obvious now, as the fog of war is lifting, that we're being led through you want to talk new world orders, baby, here comes the new world order. And it does not include the WEF kids, and it doesn't include the WHO kids or the Gavi kids or the Faucis of the world or the Rothschilds or the Wallenbergs or any of them. It takes us to a place where people are sovereign, their countries are sovereign, your rights come from God, and we're going to reset. So then if you're an American, there's a big missing piece out there. I call it the black hole right now. And that missing piece has a limited time duration to it. It goes from today until mid-July.
So Blaine calls it, he calls it the black hole, but this is part of what's missing and it's to describe to you why it is that Trump entered into this war, why he had to jump right into this, and because he didn't allow Congress to get involved for us to vote on anything. And it's because he's on a timeline.
Until mid-July. And that piece is something in our nation is about to change.
Yes.
Of a massive scale. Scale. And it's going to involve indictments in the hundreds of thousands. and it's the only path to this plan being victorious, but it is so blacked out. And when we take a look at the news cycle and how it's being used with, okay, we're pounding Iran. The Kuwaitis knocked down a couple of F-15s. Everybody focus here. Ecuador, Bolivia, Colombia. Here comes Cuba, Mexico. Everything is happening all at once. Why? Because President Trump is doing to them what they have done to us, which is I'm going to hit you on 40 different layers. I'm going to distract the living crap out of you. So now let's flip the war on the other side. I see that black hole. And the president knows very well, if nobody does anything about this, here come the midterms. Thune and Johnson turn over power willingly. Democrats then take him out, and we're suddenly in Mad Max country here in the United States. I don't see that happening.
So you can see that Blaine believes that there's a plan. And on one hand, you go, oh, man, this sounds like some QAnon shit. What's going on here? But it's something that him and Tom Luongo and what's her name, Susan Cakenda, a lot of people believe that this is something that is going on in the background. So later on in the podcast, Tom and Blaine are arguing about another guy in Burlington and how that he views a certain piece of intel, whatever. Tom didn't agree with it yet. He's not completely on board, but Blaine Holt is the arrests being made, indictments, things like that.
So doesn't it make sense that all of their little subsidiaries from Africa to South America to the Middle East, that they would have something to capture them? Wait a minute, the swamp, Washington, D.C. Who is blackmailed, extorted, bribed, whatever? Who's compromised in D.C.? I will tell you it's 98% of the damn swamp.
Right.
And that's what Julian Assange says. I think he's right.
That money that is buying these politicians off and other things is the blackmail that Holt is saying, well, Assange says that they're all dirty and they can all be indicted, I guess, arrested.
When a lot of people are like, this deadline that Trump set in June doesn't really mean anything, I'm like, you better be careful. I think it does mean a lot. So President Trump a month ago set a deadline. We're not getting anywhere with these negotiations with Ukraine and Russia. I'm giving you until June to end this war. And a lot of people are like, well, what are you going to do, Trump? They're going to just suddenly stop fighting because you said there's a deadline here? And before you just spackle over that and say that's just orange man bluster, I would say I'd be very careful with that, because that was more of a warning to Europe to say, if you won't follow my leadership in ending this war, if you're going to continue to commit continental suicide, I'm going to wipe my hands of this. And I'm going to say, I'm not putting another dollar into this. I'm not, in fact, since you didn't listen to Rubio and you're still rolling up Western values, I'm looking at things like EUCOM, AFRICOM, all of the caserns that we have there in our laydown. And if it doesn't look like Poland, Hungary, or Slovakia, we may not be there, and you may have a real problem. And I think that that's the fire they're playing with. And this is the problem about having suits in charge of Europe. Ursula von der Leyen doesn't determine one thing. She doesn't even determine what she's going to say into a microphone. Same thing with Kaja Kallas. Same thing with Mark Rutte. Same thing with Starmer. Same thing with Macron. Back to the City of London we go. They issue the script cards and they say these things. So, honestly, it's President Trump who's probably using this Lloyds of London kick in the jimmy to go, if you think I'm not serious, I'm really serious.
Dead serious. And
he's saying, Europe, each individual country in Europe doesn't control itself as a sovereign country, that it all goes back to the power of the City of London, which is, Wall Street for us. So it's financially controlling the entire European Union. And Trump, I believe, and I think Luongo does, that Trump will deal with each country on a country-by-country basis. And the point that he was making, that Holt was making about Rubio, had already went and told him, was when he went over just recently, Trump went and Rubio went. There's several people that went before Trump and absolutely blasted him in his speeches at the World Economic Forum. And so he's saying, hey, if you're not going to listen, if you're not going to play ball and you're going to keep doing what City of London wants you to do, then we're done. So if I'm going to try to reconcile the two themes, that you're going to see Colonel McGregor with one point of view over here, and it's basically that the wheels are coming off the bus, and Trump doesn't know what he's doing. He's not being advised well. It's a trap that we're walking into in Iran. But then on the other side, you've got Luongo and Cakenda and Blaine Holt that are saying, no, there is a plan. And although we might not see it perfectly or understand it all, it's a financial war. So lastly, when you hear the media and even some people on our own side complaining that there's no strategy or that this is a messy plan, they're basically saying, I don't know what the hell's going on. They're not holding the cards anymore, and they're not privy to whatever it is that Trump is planning on doing. So I feel like this is a financial war. The part that we're not seeing is a financial war. If you listen to what Tom and Blaine Holt described, now I understand where Colonel McGregor is coming from. He feels like Trump's not delivering on his promises to MAGA, because I feel the same way. There's so many things so many items that, and especially just this one that we're dealing with right now, with us being in a war with Iran. But there's this other side that I hear Tom Luongo and Blaine Holt describing, and Susan Cakenda and many other people. But I don't see that in the mainstream news. I don't see that in the back channels on YouTube or on X. If you're doing like Luongo says, and you're reading the tea leaves, it makes sense. It makes sense that there is a war, or excuse me, there's two wars. There's the war that we see little bits and pieces on television, and then there's this war, this financial war that's going on in the background that we really didn't know about. And maybe there's a reason for that. Maybe it had to be kept tight-lipped in order for him to accomplish what he's trying to accomplish. So I understand if McGregor holds a negative view of Donald Trump, because if I'm watching the mainstream media, of course I do too, because I don't see him doing the things that we were promised. But if this other plan is going on in the background, which I would like to believe that's what's really going on, and it sounds totally plausible. There's no way for me to know if any of this is right, but I've got to admit, if I sit down and look at it and try to understand what they're saying, it seems very plausible that what could be going on is a financial war, that America is going to take back its sovereignty by not letting someone control our finances. I hope you enjoyed the video, you guys. I'm out of here.